sent to London to spy on behalf of the Nazis. And so I took one of those boys and I put him on a special mission in a Jewish family's home. And my desire for this book, honestly, just as a creative, and it's not so much about the book, I'm saying that the desire to really bridge communities to, and even shatter stereotypes, is the socially conscious message in that content.
Wonderful. Okay. So let's also then, so again, there's so much that you do. It's absolutely amazing. So I know you mentioned a little bit about EmpowerCon, but when did that idea come to you, and what was that process like of actually setting up this large event in 2019?
Well, I think that everybody would recognize and realize, especially, well, no, maybe not. Okay, so as a cancer survivor, when you ask some of the resources, like I said, reaching out to the cancer community. To go a step further was, I didn't just connect with them on Facebook. I actually attended seminars and conferences specifically for cancer patients, which gave us education. It gave us talks about things that you didn't normally talk about, like, for example, sex and cancer. A lot of people, oh, what do you know? There's talks around that maybe other people are uncomfortable with, but our community needed it. And so, I was sitting there and knowing how these experiences, then also when I was there, I would develop this camaraderie with these fellow cancer fighters. Even if it was a different cancer, it didn't matter. Even if it was a male, because this wasn't exclusive to just the breast cancer community. This is everybody. Yeah. My favorite ones, at least, I would say. There are some that I attended that were like that, but the ones that I loved and really saw so much beauty in were just everybody. And how these friendships that they to this day still exist, with the ones that are still here. So I wanted to create that same thing, because it's not just about us coming on stage and telling people this is how you live your life. It's also about how the groups together, we form these relationships, connection, and healing together, and then we take it back, and then everyone's excited about the next year. And that's how you really build a culture. So seeing and having that experience and knowledge of the cancer community, I'm like, well, hey, I'm going to do the same thing for survivors of trauma, which ironically enough, in 2019, people were like, huh? But now I think that we're all like everything that people are experiencing with trauma, you got to believe that us in the cancer community, we're like, welcome to our world. Not being able to travel, not being able to go around certain people, having to consider how easily we get sick and how it can affect our treatment and everything. Like, this is old news for us and anybody who dealt with a serious health condition. By the way, I do not just, limit that to the cancer community, but when your health is compromised, you know that life. And even if you're not about that life, you got that life. Yeah. And right. So so I sat down one day and I'm like, you know what? I can do something like this for survivors of trauma. And we have spoken word. We had an empowerment comedian. It's not it's like TED Talks meets something more experience-wise, and it asks, it's all in one day. And that idea came just really wanting to take it into the community and build a culture.
That's wonderful. So that was 2019. So did you have, or were you trying to set up in 2020 and then it was kind of thrown off by COVID, or what's the evolution of this, and when is the next event going to happen?
So, well, we do different things. So we're supposed to have it October 11th, 2020. And then a lot of suggestions and a lot of everything. Yeah. I mean, last year was in August, and then we pushed it back because August we found wasn't really the best time to do it, but we still had a great turnout. And we said, well, to make it, it was just suggested. So we had moved it. And then I said, we just didn't have it set up in time. And I think that part of it is because I want it to be right. I don't want it to be something that's forced. And the way that I curate and produce these shows, it's it needs to be right. So we're looking to do an experience where it has a very COVID safe, where we have a smaller, intimate audience for the people actually giving performances and talks, and then stream it. But we are looking for a facility that would enable to do this in a very safe and efficient manner. So that's kind of what we're doing, and that's how it affected us. But in the meantime, what we've had to do is some siloed things. So while EmpowerCon stays there, I had coordinated with another organization. Through Zoom meetings presented, I created a 6-week creative writing empowerment course, which is used to help foster children, women in homeless shelters, and people who are in transition to find better life and better and it's really about trying to show them how creative writing is not just a creative writing. Like we use that to advocate for ourselves. We use that to, if you have a dream to go into medical school, even if you're an orphan, I want to help you learn how to write that application with your creative writing. Tell your story. Like a resume is your story, right? Everything that we do utilizes that. So we've been doing things like that in the back end to support our community in the meantime until we get EmpowerCon fully up and figured out. But definitely between now and the beginning of next year, we will have EmpowerCon again. It's not going away, okay. And we're not letting it go. No way.
Great. So tell me more about your podcast then, and what's that like?
Oh yeah. Okay. So true story. When people used to ask me, "Are you ever going to do a podcast, Aalia?" I was like, "No," because because I love it and I respect it, and I mean it's work. And anything I put myself to, I want to have that bandwidth, and I want to do it right. Yeah. So for a long time, I was like, "Yeah, it's not something I can take on my plate. I'm full." But then when I started after EmpowerCon, it was spurred from EmpowerCon. So kind of like everything that you do, and I love it. And I think that's why, I was really excited to come on and have this conversation with you. It's a series of, just it's a day of inspirational stories and conversations and backgrounds that you learn about people. And then I just said, yeah, let me continue that in podcast form for now, because since we can't do EmpowerCon too, let's keep it going. And I'm in my 5th season. That's Unsugarcoated with Aalia. And like you, it's just more of putting positivity into the world and helping others learn how to use what we got to do what we can. Mm-hmm. And in many cases, more than we ever dreamed possible. So the podcast is it's the thing that now, and I love it now because it's such and truth be told, it is one of the best networking tools you can actually have. Like keeping it real, like people don't realize that, like to be able to go into a room, it gives you such, like when it's not about, because there's a lot of podcasters out there, but when you and people like I share the concept, like people really love that, and people give, and so it gives you just this different dynamic when you're networking and when you're trying to develop support for an organization such as we are. We say like, yeah, come on, let's collaborate, let's get on the podcast.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
so it's been really cool.
Yeah, definitely. No, it's a fantastic way to meet new people that I normally would have not have met, otherwise. Very much like our conversation today, which was fantastic. So where's what's the future of unsugarcoated media in a world post-COVID? Like where are you focusing? Where are things going 2020 and beyond?
Well, we are in a growth spurt right now, actually. We just brought on several incredible staff members to grow our audience and grow our content. We are really moving in the direction of, look, you're going to see books put out by Unsugarcoated Media, but not just by myself. Like this is one thing. I'm part of it. I'm building the brand. I'm the visionary behind it. However, it's not just about Aalia. Like this is about other artists, and it's a community of us, right, that want to. So I say, if you're part of the Unsugarcoated community, you're a visionary, you're an artist, you're a creative who wants to make a difference in the world, or anything really, but like, you definitely want to make a difference, or you want that healing that the people that the things that we create are helping be a resource. So we want to be a resource for people, and we will do that through books. We will do that through films. I was in the middle of executive producing a film. People don't know. So this is a little tiny tidbit. I don't like to say it because it sounds like I'm bragging, but I'm going to have to. One of the advisory members of my nonprofit is my husband, Joseph Lanius. He is an amazing attorney, film attorney, entertainment attorney, and an executive producer. He just recently, he's an executive producer on the upcoming XXX Vin Diesel film franchise. He just got done. He had a film shut down during COVID, starring Tiffany Haddish, Oscar Isaac, William Dafoe, Martin Scorsese as part of that project, and he just continues to work. So I'm very blessed to have a network of some very high net worth individuals, high quality individuals, and incredible opportunities that I want to use for good. Right. And so that's something that I just see us continuing to grow and gain. Like I said, we've gained the support of people who really, I don't think so much that creating socially conscious media is as new as people would think, but I really want to hone in on that because it's a call to all artists and creatives right now that we don't get to stand on the sidelines. Like it's not about, I'm not about pushing an agenda, but I'm definitely about not staying quiet or being, more active in creating a better society for environment and speaking up. You can't just be silent. This is not that time. And, whatever we say, we need it to be of quality, and we need it to have solutions and strategies that actually help us, not just empty complaints and, things like that. No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying let's get the notepads. Did you ever do that thing back in the day where when you were creating a project and you had the sticky notes and you had a wall and you would put an idea?
Oh yeah.
Brainstorming. Let's all brainstorm on some real things that are going to help us. And I am very unsugarcoated in my approach to that.
Mm-hmm.
Some people like it, some people don't, but it's always rooted in a genuine interest to make us all better.
Yeah, well, wonderful. So I'm curious, in your own experiences, you have a very strong personality. How do you, in your life, have approached fear in different times that experiences you've come across, and how do you push past fear?
Your audience might not be ready for this story. Because I have to tell you that fear is an interesting conversation with me. And I have been told that I need to write a nonfiction book in addition to my fiction books. But when I was 18 years old, or actually, let me back up. When I was a kid, I was taught I had a very conservative family. It was, I was told as a child directly, you are seen and not heard. You are told, it was that old school. Mm-hmm. And so much so that I remember my grandparents, we were not allowed to wake them up or make much noise in the house. And when I was 5 years old, my mother fell down the stairs in my grandparents' house. I was walking behind her. She was getting ready to take me to school. She fell. I watched her fall down. She's laying on the ground. She's like, go get grandma and grandpa, go wake them up, because we were at their house. And I walked to my grandparents' bedroom door. I stood there holding my hand up to the door, and I could not bring myself to knock. I went back to my mom. I said, it'll be okay. I went out, grabbed my jacket, and I walked to school. And I left my mother laying there on the ground because I was so afraid to wake up my grandparents that and that's the type of fear that I had that would grip me. So when I was 18 years old, this is the funniest story. I took a car for a test drive, and the guy gave him my idea. I was going to buy a car, and years ago I would have never told this story, but I have to now to be authentic. So he says, give me your ID. I give him my ID, and he goes, oh, take the car by yourself. And I'm like, by myself? He's like, yeah, go show your friends, go show your family. Well, I didn't live exactly close to the dealership, so I take it, but I'm 18. I'm taking it to my friends. I'm taking it over here. And soon enough, he starts paging me with these it just tells you how long ago this was. He was like, if you don't show up, he starts yelling. And what is my reaction, Yuri? Mm-hmm. I get scared. I'm like, I don't know what to do, but now I'm afraid if I take this car back, I'm going to get in trouble. Well, duh. My brain clearly, my fear blocked me from realizing it's not like I was going to get away from this. So I just went home. Mm-hmm. I went home and I took the car home and I stayed there. And on the third day, the police showed up to take little Aalia to jail for Grand Theft Auto because my fear had allowed me to act so naively. Mm-hmm. And look, I dealt with that situation, and it was a long time ago. And of course, afterwards, I'm like, if I had just taken the dang car back. So that's how I dealt with fear at 18 years old.
Yeah.
Now, when I deal with fear, it's still there. Every time I get up on a stage, even sometimes before I'm doing a podcast interview, I get nervous and I get a little bit afraid. But I've noticed that fear keeps me on my toes. Mm-hmm. And I've learned to say the mantra to myself. Right now my mantra is Hamilton, I'm not throwing away my shot. And I allow the fear to be there, but I just don't allow it to dictate me. I don't allow it to take me back to that moment where I made the wrong decision and I allowed the fear to make me do something I really didn't want to do. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's how I handle fear today. And I don't mean to tell your audience is probably like, who is this person? Why do you have on your show? No, but look, listen, there's one thing I say, and I've said it before. I don't share my authenticity and the uglies and the beauty. I can't sit here and tell you all the wonderful. I want to tell you the wonderful things, but I got to tell you the real things too. So that when people see me, they're like, okay, there goes a fighter. Yeah. That's what that's what they're going to say. Okay, that chick, she's been through a lot, but you know what? Look at where she's at today. And that's what I admire.
Yeah, wonderful. So with everything that you have done and experienced so far, what would you say has been the best advice that you ever received?
So thankfully I asked you before if I could curse. The best, I'll give you context, but the best advice I've ever received was to get up off your ass and fight. And I say this to give you context. I was laying in a hospital bed. I didn't have anything but a Wi-Fi. I was feeling very sorry for myself at this time. I was not having a good experience with my marriage.